Have you ever stopped to really think about how we process the chaotic, endless stream of reality? I mean, it's literally a continuous river of events, but our brains just can't digest that infinite flow all at once. So, how do we handle it? Well, in this explainer, we're going to look at the English language, specifically the clause, as a massive, highly sophisticated physics engine. Just like a physics engine in a video game calculates gravity and collision to model a virtual reality, our grammar actively models the continuous flow of human experience, chunking it into digestible quanta of change. Today, we are breaking down the theoretical architecture of Systemic Functional Linguistics, or SFL, to uncover exactly how this fascinating engine operates.
All right, here's our roadmap for deconstructing this framework. We're going to start by modeling the flow of events, then break down processes, participants, and circumstances. From there, we'll map out the three primary process types, navigate the fuzzy boundary processes, and finally shift our entire paradigm by looking at the transitive and ergative models.
Let's jump right into Section 1, Modeling the Flow of Events. So, like we established, our raw experience is this endless, unbroken stream. Grammar is the actual tool we use to impose systemic order on that chaos. And the specific grammatical system that achieves this order, it's called transitivity. Now, forget what you might remember from middle school English class. In SFL, transitivity isn't just some rigid dictionary rule about whether a verb takes a direct object or not. It is so much grander than that. Transitivity is the lexicogrammatical resource for construing a quantum of change in the flow of events as a figure. It essentially takes the infinite, swirling flux of the universe and categorizes it into a manageable set of process types. It's the very mechanism that allows us to reflect on our world and impose linguistic structure onto raw, unfiltered experience.
To really picture this, think of a clause's basic anatomy as a solar system. Right at the absolute center, you have the process. This is the glowing, transient sun, unfolding through time, usually represented by our verb. Orbiting closely around this central process are the participants. These are the more permanent, stable planets, like nouns, that are directly involved in bringing the process about or, being affected by it. And finally, further out in the fringes, you have the circumstances. These are the distant, optional moons. They're your adverbs or prepositional phrases that peripherally augment the center by telling us the time, space, or cause, without actually being directly involved in the core action of the solar system.
Moving on to Section 2, the three primary process types.
Okay, so if we're chunking reality into these linguistic solar systems, what kinds of systems do we actually build? Well, statistically speaking, if we analyze a massive sample of English texts, two primary process types absolutely dominate human discourse: material and relational processes. These twin pillars frame the vast bulk of our outer and inner architectures, with mental processes coming in third.
Let's break those down. Material processes are all about doing and happening in the external world. They involve an input of energy that creates a literal quantum of change. Take this quote from an interview with the author Chinua Achebe. During the European scramble for Africa, Nigeria fell to the British. The word "fell" here, that's a material process. It represents a tangible, concrete event unfolding in time, where an actor, in this case Nigeria, is involved in a physical, material happening.
Now, within these material processes, SFL makes a really crucial distinction based on the outcome of that energy. Are we dealing with something creative or transformative? If you say, "She painted a portrait," that's creative. The portrait, the actor or goal, literally did not exist before the painting process brought it into existence. But if you say, "She painted the house red," well, the house already existed, unless it's an invisible house, right? The process didn't create it, it simply transformed a pre-existing participant.
So, the takeaway here is that while material processes handle our outer experience, mental processes handle our inner experience. This is our world of consciousness. Look at this simple line from casual conversation: "I hate cockroaches." Here, the process hate isn't a physical action extending into the world. The participants completely change their roles. You don't have an actor anymore, you have a sensor, which inherently must be an entity endowed with consciousness, like I. And what they are experiencing is called the phenomenon, the cockroaches.
And finally, we have relational processes. Think of these as the connective tissue of our language. They don't model doing, and they don't model sensing. They model being and having. Returning to Achebe for a second, that every fourth African is a Nigerian. The verb "is" here acts almost like a highly generalized mathematical equal sign. It's simply linking two participants, a token, and a value, in a relationship of classification and identity. This is the engine that allows us to build abstract taxonomies of reality.
Which brings us to Section 3, Navigating the Boundary Processes. The world of our experience is highly indeterminate, right? It's messy, and our grammar perfectly reflects that. These categories we just looked at aren't rigid, isolated boxes. Instead, I want you to think of them as regions on a continuous topological color wheel. You have your primary colors, material, mental, and relational. But at their edges, they shade and blend into one another, creating three fuzzy boundary processes: behavioral, verbal, and existential. Let's look at how these operate in those overlapping zones.
In the space between mental and material, we have behavioral processes, things like laughing or sleeping. This is basically the physical acting out of a conscious state. Then, between mental and relational, we have verbal processes, like saying or meaning. These are symbolic relationships constructed in our consciousness, but enacted out loud in language. And closing the loop between relational and material are existential processes, like saying there is a storm. These use the dummy subject there to simply recognize that a phenomenon exists or happens. Recognizing these fuzzy boundaries is absolutely key to understanding how flexibly we manipulate reality when we speak. Finally, Section 4, the transitive and ergative models.
Now, I want you to prepare for an intellectual paradigm shift regarding how we perceive verbs, causation, and action as a whole. Everything we've discussed so far relies on one specific perspective, but there is a much deeper mechanics at play underneath it all. Look at this question. Are we modeling extension or are we modeling causation? I want you to literally flip your perspective here, kind of like looking at one of those optical illusions that can be both convex and concave simultaneously.
Let's place these two frameworks side by side so you can see what I mean. The traditional transitive model is linear. It asks about extension. Does the actor's energy extend over to a goal? But alongside this, SFL reveals the hidden ergative model. This is a nuclear model that asks about causation. Is the process brought about from within, or is it instigated by an external agent causing a medium to actualize?
Let's ground this abstract physics with a classic example. Think about the sentences, "The lion caught the tourist" versus "The tourist ran." In the traditional transitive view, the lion is the actor doing the catching, and that action extends to the tourist as the goal. But flip to the ergative view. Here, the tourist is actually the central, nodal medium through which the process of running, or being caught, actualizes. In the tourist ran, the process is self-engendered. But in the lion caught the tourist, the lion is merely the external agent causing the tourist, the medium, to be caught. The lens completely changes from who is extending action to what is the nodal medium of the event, and is there an external cause?
And this brilliantly illustrates the true elegance of systemic functional linguistics, because beneath all the distinct messy process types, beneath your actors, sensors, and tokens, lies one universal nuclear structure. Every single clause in the English language is built around a process and a medium. The medium is the one participant critically involved, without which there would be literally no process at all. It is the absolute core of our linguistic physics engine. By chunking our experiences into these distinct systemic networks, we aren't just passively recording the world around us. We are actively imposing an architecture onto it. So I leave you with this final provocation to think about. Does language merely describe our reality, or does its hidden universal grammar actively construct the very way we perceive existence? Thank you for exploring the physics of language with me. Keep analyzing and keep questioning the structures around you.